Today on Building Australia, we're going to talk all things building membranes. I'm joined by Daniel Jakobs from clima, who are the sponsor of today's show. So let's get started. Dan, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you've come to be where you are today.
That's a good question, yeah. So my background is I'm originally from Germany, Munich.
Yep.
I'm very privileged because we have a pretty good education system for carpenters, and
I believe so.
Yes, and it's a very long tradition. So like, as you might have seen, like I always wear the traditional carpentry clothes, and even all my pictures, because it's hundreds and hundreds of years old tradition, and also knowledge and the system how it is built up. So you do your apprenticeship, then you work for a few years, and then you can go for a retrain to get a master carpenter.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you have to be a master carpenter because otherwise you're not allowed to have apprentice. So it means this system actually creates like a quality level to really keep the quality up.
It's a rigorous system that's expecting, quality from start to finish.
Yeah.
Which is something that's sort of new to Australians. Typically it's pretty casual. You go on, you do an apprenticeship for 3 or 4 years, off you go, which has worked fine, but we do need to be building better, which I believe is one of your missions at the moment,
100%.
which I'm happy to hear about.
Yeah, 100%. That's what drives me in Australia, because I see like, you just here out in the hills from Melbourne, and it's just beautiful. And Australia is a beautiful country, and the opportunities here are massive, and also the opportunities for good housings for everyone. And that's, I think, like the key topic is kind of how do we make this knowledge or just living standards accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's a big issue at the moment.
Yes, and also houses that can last longer as well.
Yes.
That's the other thing. Our current expectation of a home is maybe 30, 40 years and you obviously see it in Europe, a home can last, it can be intergenerational, talking hundreds of years. So that's something that we should be striving for as well. So tell me a little bit about clima. How did that all start? What's the history of clima?
So clima, of course, is also a German company owned by Lothar Moll. He's still the owner and the big boss of the company. And before we actually had clima membranes and tapes, actually we started with the building ecological products. So this was actually the first building ecological supermarket in Europe, technically, with paints, insulation, etc. And a very important part was insulation. We talk about cellulose, blowing in insulation, sheep wool, hemp, etc. And then in the 90s or even in the 80s, the owner realized, so we as clima realized, before it was clima, we realized, the insulation actually needs protection. Because like I keep saying, is you run out on a cold windy day with your jumper, and it's a really nice merino hand-woven jumper, and it's still cold. Because air just goes through the pores and you're still cold. So that the idea came up then, we actually have to protect insulation. And we have to hold it in place. So the first product is called the DB+. It's just paper, reinforced paper actually. And we still sell this product one-on-one exactly the same. As we just had this paper to protect the insulation from the inside, we realized, wait a minute. Actually, it stops moisture getting in the structure too, because it was actually a new concept. Because before we just used polyethylene sheets just to hold it in place and stop moisture getting in. But paper, as you can consider, is like airtight, relatively vapor tight, but it also changes because it's a natural product more or less, because it's based on cellulose. And by mistake, we invented the first vapor permeable smart vapor control layer based out of paper, which is now the Intello membrane.
Yeah, because before that, just wrapping it up in polyethylene had its problems as well, to do with the building sweating and condensation.
Exactly, and we had like polyethylene on the inside and on the outside. Yeah. Because the idea was if moisture doesn't get in, everything's fine. But that's not how the world works. There's always moisture coming in, but it always has to be able to escape. And then step by step, then we started way later to have external membranes, because also we had to protect our building from external wind and weather.
So what you're referring to there, I think, is what we might call wind washing.
Yes.
So we have this insulation in there, and it's got a quoted R value on the packaging, on the drawings, and everyone anticipates it's going to get R2.5 or R3 or whatever the stated number is. But with that wind washing, that external temperature, just constantly washing over that insulation, it's not delivering what it should do. So what you're talking about is protecting that. So like we're allowing it to do its job 100% effectively.
Yes, exactly. So when we talk about the insulation layer, we have to protect it from the inside and we have to protect it from the outside. From the outside, we want to protect it from wind, weather and water and vermins. From the inside, we want to protect it from internal moisture. And that's a very important part. So the first part is we have to stop wind washing because you reduce the performance by up to 80%. Now just imagine we have our truss roof, ceiling insulation. We have to ventilate our truss roof by code, minimum 20 millimeters. So you reduce the performance of your insulation by up to 80%. No one's calculating it.
No, and it's a significant number. It's not like we're losing 10% or 15%. 80% is getting to the point where it's almost completely ineffective.
But we talk about up to 80%. So it's not, of course, like you really need a massive airflow to actually have your 80% reduction.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a little bit underrated too, the importance of insulation in Australia at the moment, without being too critical, it's underrated. I mean, it just gets forced in and stuffed in, and there's no real care. That's changing, and there's some great contractors out there who are now getting on board with this. But for the vast majority, it's just stuff it in there and go. So it's a big area for improvement.
Yeah, and it's not actually that this is the biggest issue, in my opinion, is kind of refocusing at the moment. The building code, 7-star, green star, everything is focusing. More insulation is always better. And I'll say like, wait a minute. Because like the more insulation you put in the wall, the higher the temperature difference is between the inside and outside. The higher the condensation and mold risk is in your structure. So you can't add on more insulation if you don't get it weather tight, airtight, and you have to control your moisture. So you have to understand your structure. So you have to be vapor permeable to the outside, and you have a smart vapor control layer on the inside. You need the perfect sandwich in your wall to really make your wall actually last. If you, for example, don't put a smart vapor control layer on the inside, moisture can get in your structure, and on the way out, warm, humid air, specifically like bedrooms or bathrooms, will definitely then cool down, and then you end up with condensation issues. And I'm pretty sure you retrofitted some houses and you have seen these issues.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they're hardwood frames and they can withstand a lot of beating when it comes to moisture. But in a more modern home, which is built out of pine framing, it just can't hold up to that.
And they're super sensitive. Pine is like turns moldy quite quickly too.
Yeah, I mean, it's got other benefits. It's great to work with. It's cost effective, but in terms of durability against mold and condensation, that's one of its biggest fallbacks.
It's tricky.
Yeah. So what other products are Proclima offering these days? I mean, we're pretty familiar with the internal, external membranes and the tapes.
Yes.
What else is it offering now? Particularly, for example, wood fibre is a new offering in Australia.
Yeah.
Is Proclima getting on board with that?
We literally just sell tapes and membranes. That's it.
Yep.
But the thing is, like, applying these tapes and membranes, you actually change the performance of your building to a better. But also, like, you reduce risks of your structure. And the thing is, like, we just talk about a millimeter on the inside or a millimeter or less than a millimeter on the outside. But this changes the whole performance, how your building will actually work and perform.
Yeah.
How your building will perform over the lifetime. So that's why it's very important to understand it. I'm a big fan of wood fiber, for example, because I work with wood fiber boards for over 20 years now, like in Germany. I remember the first house, the first roof we did like 2002, and it's great. I love it. And I'm glad to see it's coming to Australia. The shame is we still have to import it because we have to create a market before, hopefully, one of the companies will start to actually produce it here in Australia.
Yeah, it's mad that we're not, because it's one of those resources that we do have in abundance in Australia. In general, forestry products, whether it's timber or wood fibre or anything in between, we should be making it here. But
it's a big investment. I know the owner from Goodtex, and we talk about like around 80 to 100 million euro investment for a factory.
Yeah.
So
it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
So, I mean, I've only been able to find, I think, 2 or 3 suppliers in Australia for wood fibre. Currently, it's fairly substantial lead times, an expensive product, but it's a sort of thing that it just fits so well with what we're trying to achieve with the building, which is particularly when you think about a healthy home, detoxing, taking as much chemicals, as much VOCs out of it as we can. So with wood fibre, you've mentioned before using it in a roof, walls and subfloors. Would you consider it there as well?
You can use it everywhere. That's a beauty. So we talk about fundamentally 2 different products in wood fiber. So you would have like a higher density one, most times they're like 50 to 60 millimeters. These are external grade wood fiber boards.
Great for retrofits.
Great for retrofits, and also like you would run them over the studs.
Yeah.
And then you would have you would have additional insulation, which is a flex insulation between your studs, because you need the flexibility to actually cut it in and put it in, because the rigid boards are pretty hard to work with.
Yeah.
If you're trying to cut them between studs.
Yeah.
The thing is, the bigger benefits actually from wood fiber is wood fiber can absorb 50% of its own mass and moisture without changing the performance of the insulation. So you have a very moisture loving material, which has a pretty good impact on the climate of your structure and your indoor climate, because it actually can balance out fluctuations of your external and internal humidity.
Sort of breathing in a sense, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. I don't like breathing the word because it means always, for me, breathing is airflow. So when we talk about the breather reps, we might talk about later, it means always airflow. And you don't want airflow in your insulation layer. And we also have to understand, like, wood fiber is also sensitive material. I think in the best case, you would work with wood fiber and not using membranes and tapes. But we still have to be very aware of the moisture transport, whereas moisture is going in one direction. Like in winter, we have more back diffusion. In summer, we have more back diffusion. In winter, we have actually internal moisture trying to get to the outside. So we have to understand the dynamics of the structure. And that's why I always recommend you have your studs, you fill them up with flex insulation, you put our wall or roof membrane on directly to connect your windows, and then you put the wood fiber board on the outside, because then you have an airtightness layer in the middle, and also like your weather resistant barrier.
Yeah. So then in that situation, you're suggesting you wouldn't need the internal membrane as well. It's sufficient to have that one.
Again, climate dependent, because we have heaps of different climates in Australia, but in most climates it works really well if you have one membrane in the middle. Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, kind of, you could even change the membrane. So you could go from a class 4 to a class 4 vapor permeable membrane to a class 2 vapor barrier, for example, which we also have if you go up north in the tropics.
Yeah, and that is one of the challenges. We're trying to sort of come up with a code that's going to work across all of Australia, and it can't. From Tasmania to Townsville, they're just very different beasts.
Yes, but the idea is still like that we try to have the same details, and the technology of the products is of course very important too. But I'm saying is, I always recommend really wrapping your house in a weather resistant barrier, not because we sell it, because I know the potential issues you can have if you don't detail wood fiber properly.
Yeah, and when you're building a house, that's a fairly cheap thing to do. It's not like it's not a huge expense.
No.
It's almost not even an option. It's like you just must have that.
Yes, and it's fast and it's secure. Also, we talk about detailing, and then putting wood fiber on the outside, and it's one of the best jobs anyway. So I really enjoy working on it. I think I laid like tens of thousands of square meters in my life. I did also like a roof in Sydney a few years back. I just love to be back on the tools and running wood fiber. Big boards, running roof up and down, and it's pretty great.
I think one of the areas I think that wood fiber is going to really come into play in Australia will be retrofitting. I often get asked, what's a good house to buy if you want to renovate? And I've seen identified this period between the sort of 60s and 70s when we were building with hardwood frames, naturally air-dried hardwood frames, good footing systems, concrete stumps, but they just leaked a lot of air. They never had the capacity for insulation. And for a lot of people, if you want to insulate now, you strip all the plaster out, which is pretty expensive. But I prefer this idea of stripping the brickwork off and then putting the wood fibre on there and reclad with maybe brickwork, maybe something else.
Yes.
But I see that's where it's going to really find its market, is in the retrofitting market in Australia.
Yeah, also. Because like in certain climates, again, you could also use the wood fibre on the inside. But you have to be very careful with insulating on the inside of your building, because it means kind of you create a cold surface on the outside, and colder climates up here, you could create massive issues, for example. So the idea is the thermal mass, which is going to be your bricks in this case. If you have bricks and you insulate on the outside, your bricks would be also on the warm side of the building. This is where you completely or nearly eliminate any condensation risks and mold risks. Now, if you put the insulation on the inside, then the whole bricks can be cold, depends on the climate and what insulation you use. It means kind of then if you use the wrong insulation, you could ever end up with massive mold issues between the insulation layer and the bricks. The thing is, if you glue wood fiber directly to your bricks or to your render in this case, because you should definitely render because you don't want air pockets, you need direct contact with the insulation, then the insulation can actually handle the moisture, as I said it before.
Yeah.
Because you have a hygrophilic insulation material. So it means they actually really can work and handle the moisture of the structure.
Yeah. And it requires those layers to be built up tight and consistently, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The makeup of these membranes are the TEEEs, Dan. Can you explain that a bit further?
Oh yeah, sure. The thing is, like, quality matters. And again, like if you design products just for the first 5 to 10 years, then this is what will last. The thing is, like as we mentioned before, like Proclima has like this building biological background, so the owner never liked the idea actually having like polymers or working with plastic materials. So as we looked into it, he said like, okay, it has to be the best material on the market. So what he did is actually reverse engineer. So he was looking what's the highest regulated area. There's aeronautics. Aeronautics difficult because it's expensive. The next one, cars.
Yeah.
So then it's like, what's the most durable part in the car and the most regulated part? Then he actually said, oh, it's the airbag. Okay, let's have a look. Because an airbag has to work at minus 40 degrees, and the same airbag has to work at 120 degrees, at 120 degrees in Townsville. The same after 20, 30 years. So that means kind of, okay, what is this material? And airbags are made out of T2E, thermoelastomer ether ester. And then we reverse engineered the T2E layer to get it into our membranes. And that's a very important part. And also like all our products are redless free, so we don't have any kind of off-gassing issues with our products.
Which is a topic that comes up a lot these days. If you can have low VOCs or no VOCs, and given that none of these products off-gas in any way is a big tick for a lot of people as well.
Yeah. I take it for granted, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, in certain parts of the world, they do take it for granted. They just have got rid of VOCs.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The thing is, like, when we talk about VOCs, my personal issue is like with working with treated timber. And like specifically having treated timber inside of a structure, I don't think it's healthy. Specifically LOSP treated timber, specifically. Because it continues off-gassing for years and years and years. And I think the health impact can't be positive without knowing exactly what's happening. But the important part is use as much untreated timber as possible and protect your building properly by detailing windows and doors and concrete slabs so no moisture can get in your structure, because then you don't need to treat your timber. Termite is a different topic, but normally termite treatment is not a toxic treatment.
No, and it's typically outside the building.
Yes.
But it's also what you're referring to is what I actually call an ancient building method. It's actually been done for a long, long time.
Yes.
I've a bit of a fascination with timber buildings in Japan, and I've seen innumerous number of structures, whether they're homes or government buildings, religious buildings, thousands of years old, made in timber. So it's not like we have to relearn. It's like we have to reinvent everything, maybe relearn something.
What do you think the secret is? The facades and the material, also that the timber structures stand up that well.
I'd say,
and compared to how we build these days in Australia.
Well, I would say ventilation. They never get the chance to sweat. They don't get covered up so much either.
And I think the most important part is overhangs. Having eave and ridge overhangs. Thing is kind of because like if you look at all the old structures, they always have at least 1 meter, 1.5 meter overhang. Because if you have a proper overhang, you actually protect your building.
Yeah, and also from the ground up, you've got a bit of extra space on the ground that's not getting wet.
Exactly. And if you look like on all the newer buildings, doesn't matter what material is on, boxy look, and if you have like FC sheet or other materials, you know how they look after a few years. So it's kind of a trend at the moment to build boxy houses. But if you look at the performance, you have to detail really, really well that you don't create issues. Because like you have the full wind load and water load on each single joint of your building. Yeah,
it's not. You're right, it's not particularly cool topic at the moment, having eave overhangs, but...
For me, it's still a nice house. But I still would say like we build much nicer houses in Australia than we build in Germany. Because like the German houses are pretty effective, but not good looking.
Oh, I think it's a matter of choice. I mean, I would say homes in Europe are darker, smaller windows. But that's in response to the climate as well.
And also like that's older, so newer buildings have also like more windows, because we know if you have more natural light around you, it has a positive impact on your health and your immune system. So it means kind of getting light in your building is a good thing. But specifically like Australia, eave overhangs make so much sense because you don't want direct sunlight in your building, because overheating is, because the more we insulate our buildings, it means the more energy efficient it is, and it performs easily pretty good in winter, but in summer, you just have to be very careful that you don't overheat your place.
And it's about having that design so that you're blocking that direct sun in summer, but you're allowing it in winter.
Yes, exactly.
So one of the things that I notice in Australia, that our housing stock is fairly old. It's a comment I receive from people from outside of Australia who sort of are surprised that in a relatively modern country, we still live in fairly cold, damp homes.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this? But obviously, coming from Germany, a well-built environment, it's normal for you to be comfortable throughout the year. Whereas in Australia, I think in some regions, particularly, we just accept that it's normal to wear a beanie and a jacket in winter.
Yes, exactly. And we also like accept, as I said before, like having cockroaches on the inside running around. The thing is, like, if you seal and build your building well, there are no gaps and cracks for cockroaches and vermin getting in. So that's also another part. And we also very often, like, we in Australia, or specifically, like, I live in the eastern suburbs in Sydney, so everyone goes to the gym and everyone is healthy. And so health is a very important topic in Australia. Everyone tries to be healthy, eat healthy.
Yeah.
But we still spend 96%, depends on you as a builder, you spend more time outside, of course, but we still spend a lot of time indoors. So it means the house where we live in has a direct impact on our health.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to really understand what we need to live in a healthy environment. And this comes back then, which to try to close the loop, the end user wants to live in a healthy house. He comes to you and you come up with ideas how to you come up with a concept, let's say it that way, come up with a concept how to build a house to create a healthy and durable home. And then you rely on us as a building product suppliers for climate, that we know our stuff and we give you exactly the right products and information you need and you want to build a proper house.
And also, when you're starting from the start, to be thinking of a home in terms of being a healthy home,
Yes.
it's not hard to do.
General, no.
Yeah. It's just it's not common in Australia. That's the only problem. It's going to take a bit of time to change that thinking, but we're on the right path.
We get in there, and more people like you and me, like running out and fighting the good fights.
Making some noise.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not easy because sometimes people take it very personally. I mean, I know you've been quite vocal about things that could be just done better. It's not a personal criticism of any particular builder or anyone in the country, but I've noticed some other people from overseas have made comments on Australian building standards and thought, wow, this is sort of a bit out of the 70s or even the 60s. Things haven't evolved, and I think it's good if someone who's got a bit of an outside view can make that comment. And I don't think anyone should take any offence to it. It's just there's room for improvement. There always is.
I'm still careful with my comments because me with my German background, I'm quite direct. And sometimes it can be actually misreceived. So really, that was my learning curve coming to Australia. Just give you a comment if you asked.
Yeah. I mean, some people they don't receive it well. They can be a little bit overly sensitive, but it's something everyone needs to hear. I don't think there's many tradespeople in Australia who can say, I'm at the top of my game, it doesn't get any better than this. I think 99.9% of tradespeople out there could look at themselves and say, no, I could do something better.
100%. And I think it's also the building methodology we have here in Australia. So I completely stopped even talking about it, but most builders are like, what's the standard here? What's the building code standards? And I keep saying the building code is the bare legal minimum to build without going to jail. Yeah. And if you build to the building code today, it's going to be redundant, and it's going to be redundant in 3 years because the building code is evolving.
Change. Yeah.
So that's why I maybe know 1 or 2 clauses of the building code. I barely don't know anything about the building code because my workmates in the Sydney office, they can read the building code up and down, they know everything about it. I really focus on how to get it right. And that's really like, we in Proclima also, like we have the why and the how, that's what we call it. So we have all the technical department, which I'm part of, and we're focusing on the why and I'm focusing on the how, because it's way more important for you as a builder and also for the end user. They want the results. And someone needs to show them and say, okay, that's exactly how you detail it, that's how you install it.
And it also does help that a company like Proclima is doing this with a lot of research as well. There's a lot of data to back it up. So it's just not what we think is effective. Here's the data, here's the testing.
Yes.
We know that it works.
And I do lots of testing, so I spend a lot of time in test labs, do weather tests with the membranes, and we hit quite a few benchmarks recently with tests, which is still a little bit secret, so I can talk about it. Okay. More for the commercial, also because like we really also like getting big in the commercial space, because like if you talk about these massive high-rise building, precast concrete is a perfect structure for mold growth. Like you have concrete, it's airtight, can store moisture, it's cold. It's a perfect breeding ground for molds in the structure. And the numbers with issues there are no official numbers, but in theory, they should be really, really high.
Yeah, and when you think about concrete structures, that is a large number of people living in those concrete structures as well.
And for me, like, you see also, like, when you drive around the eastern suburbs of Sydney, for example, and all the new builds, they all build concrete too. So it's still like all these fancy homes, they build out of concrete because like concrete is still the thing.
Like tilt up or just concrete slabs?
No, completely concrete bunkers, so we call
Wow,
them.
wow.
So of course with lots of glass around, but still, I think like we're not even talking about the carbon footprint here. We just talk about the performance of the building. Like the building always is going to feel cold. It might be nice in summer, but we still, even in Sydney, we have like 5 months of winter.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we keep saying like we're living in a warm climate. We live in a warmer climate, or it's warmer than Europe or most parts of Europe. But it's still cold for 5 months of the year.
Yeah, and then that's the majority of the population. Once you go sort of Sydney and south, that's probably 60% of our population, maybe a bit more, is actually in those colder climates.
Yes.
You get right up north, and it's a case of you just leave the windows open all year round. That's really all you can do.
Yeah.
But the majority of us do live in these colder climates.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's funny when you go up north, for example, you can't build like a little bit in between. So in up north, you really have to build absolutely airtight or absolutely leaky. But if you start building like half airtight buildings, then you have like external high humidity will get in your structure, condensate in your structure. So you really have to block it out. You need a dehumidifier. And so really can't just step by step improve your house. Because otherwise you create problems. In colder climates, it's easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem with this topic in general is it's hard to see. People will see the effects of it over time when the damage is done.
Yes.
But to actually see it in action, most people will never see it. So it largely goes under the radar.
Yes. I mean, you really have to really talk more about also, like, I'm not a specialist on asthma, on mold, but like the mold issues in Australia are massive. Like an asthma rate, Australia has one of the highest asthma rates in the world. And it's based on the buildings we build. Of course, sometimes you hear something about asthma storms or sandstorms. But this is a very important topic. And then also, like, if you live in bushfire areas, the smoke can be quite unhealthy too, which you go back to air tightness and ventilation systems. But the thing is, like, you should just know there are actually solutions on the market. And there are many solutions on the market. They can be like more expensive, but more expensive mostly is based on a complicated design. You could have actually a very efficient and healthy home, not for a big bang, for a big buck, to be honest. So you can,
if the form is simple enough and it's not excessively big, because we do also build some of the biggest homes in the world as well.
Australia's #1 footprint per capita.
And that's something that, you know, I think a lot of people would compromise a bit of quantity for quality. But ultimately, I think if any of these things can lead to buildings that are healthy and last longer, we're solving some other problems there as well. Because instead of in the space of, say, 1 century building 3 or 4 homes, if we can build one, there's some huge advantages to that as well.
Other funny thing is, like, for me, it's quite new, like having the mindset, like normal mindset Australia, you have the first, second, third home buyers. So the first one, cheap and nasty, is just to get into the market.
It's a bit like your first car.
Yes, but it's kind of, Germans are very emotional with their house. So you build one house and you stay there for the rest of your life. And you want to pass it on to your kids. So that's the fundamental mindset in Germany when you build a house, not just in Germany, like I think in many European countries, you build your house for your family. So this mindset is completely different than if you say, you build a house today, I'm gonna sell it in 5 years anyway because it went up 10%, whatever it is. So make a few extra coins on it before I sell it. So what's your focus on quality if you're not planning to live there? And that's funny. It took me quite a few years to really understand it.
It's a bit of a national obsession in Australia, flipping homes, for example. I obviously don't agree with it because I think there's no accountability. It's like, just go for the profit and on to the next one.
Yes, exactly.
It's a different way of thinking. I mean, if you could imagine your kids living in your home, you might start to think when you're choosing a builder or designer, you probably think about it differently. And it's very much a mindset thing, as you pointed out, which will take a little bit longer for us to adopt.
And you also, like, the kitchen is still significantly more important than the performance of the house. Like, it's more important, like, having a $50,000, $100,000 kitchen in there.
Bench tops.
Nice bench tops.
We always talk about the bench tops.
Always the bench tops. and of course, the membrane is not overly sexy, to be honest. So it kind of...
Not really, no. No.
I think still, like, I see when you look through social media, still people like wrapping the house and say, look how cool it looks. Because like if you have a really nice installed membrane,
Yeah.
the house looks good.
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
thing is kind of, you as a house owner, for example, as a builder, if you see your house is wrapped properly, membrane is nice and taut, it looks like a Christmas present,
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
can be sure that the performance of the house is going to be significant better. Because
Yeah.
then you will see that taped around windows properly, you can really see you won't have any leaks around it.
Yeah.
So it means good workmanship is always a good byproduct for a good performing house.
Which is one of my big questions for you, and I ask this of every carpenter I meet from anywhere in the world. It's a favourite topic of mine. But as a carpenter, what is your favourite type of work? And you know, what advice would you give to a young carpenter in Australia?
Oh, that's good. Good question. The thing is kind of, fun fact is I never wanted to be a chippy, to be honest. So I just stumbled into
There's
my
a bombshell.
yeah, it is. And apprenticeship because I always wanted to be a pilot. And the thing is, but also I always was interested. So it means kind of I always try to give my person 100% and I always try to improve and I always wanted to understand things. So it means when I started my apprenticeship, I had very good like colleagues and they've been very, very picky. So like one of my workmates was like, we built a lot of stairs. And really, like when you route in the stairs, it had to be perfect. When we talk about perfect, we talk about 0.2 millimeters difference. So if I was at 0.5, yeah.
Yeah.
And most people don't even know what 0.2 millimeters are.
It's not. It doesn't come up on building sites.
No,
I can tell you that much. It's a joinery thing, but
Yeah.
it's set on machinery.
Yes, exactly. So we built lots of stairs, then like massive roof structures with hip and valley rafters. So like everything in Central Europe is like pre-built, as a pre-cut. It's not direct prefab because prefab is when you really panelize your walls and roof structures.
Yeah.
So pre-cut, I would say, means kind of you really cut all the rafters, hip and valley rafters to perfect measurement. You just
Yeah.
go inside and you erect the whole roof. It doesn't matter how complicated it is in one day. And just cutting it all by hand, typically rafter, by the way, in Germany is like 100 by 200. So you can imagine the stuff is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
A ridge beam, usually if you have a high span, like here, 10, 12 meters, a typical ridge beam would be 240 by 480, for example.
Okay. Yeah. So like a proper load bearing ridge then.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but really working with this material timber and like really cutting each rafter by hand because
Yeah.
the typical saw is then you can cut 130 mil.
Yeah.
So you're working with the big saws all day long, like really
Yeah.
one after one after one.
I think that is the carpenter's dream in Australia.
Yeah.
There's not that much work out there. But I mean, one of the things I've sort of mentioned to particularly younger carpenters is have a variety of skills.
Yes, but
If
also, this is where I might have a different opinion. There's a lot of stress as a builder because like you have to do so many different things. My personal opinion is, how can you get the best in one thing if you do so many different things? And that's like a thing like, as every builder, I would recommend specialize what you're the best in. And of course, there has to be a market for it. And it doesn't make it easy because, of course, if you're the builder and you really do concrete footing and everything by yourself, you have more control what you're doing. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, I think it's very important that and I recommend to each apprentice, try to be the best in what you're doing for yourself without, of course, harassing other people. But like when you have your chisels in your toolbox, they should be always sharp. And I always got
Yeah.
checked. My boss always came to my thing and just,
Yeah.
can I shave myself
Yeah.
with your chisel? Good.
yeah.
And that's just one thing. Take care of your tools. Buy good, even more expensive tools, but really take care of them. Like when we talk about Marfell, it's significant more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
they're there forever.
Yes, exactly, forever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it's like that with all these tools. You buy one and you keep buying it every year, or you buy, you know, a brand that you trust and you've got it almost forever.
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
But it's the mindset. So really try it. It's like more like a Japanese mindset also. Try it as good as you can and then you will get better. Take your time to get good at it and then you
Yeah.
will get better and then you get an absolute professional. And if you would have heaps of absolute professional everywhere on the market, professional bricky, whatever it is, then we can raise the quality, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that is slowly happening.
Yes.
I think it's got to start a bit earlier in my mind in the education of all tradespeople, but it is improving. I mean, we've sort of taken a bit of a step back, I feel, in the last 20 years,
Yeah.
but we're getting back on track.
Yeah. The thing is, we can't really rely on a tape system. Let's be honest. So it
It's-
means the education mainly has to happen in the company.
Yeah,
That
well,
does make it easier.
Yeah, we try and do all our apprentice training on site.
Yeah.
They do have some assessment on site, but it's maybe half a day at a time. Otherwise, all on site.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Dan, for joining us on Building Australia. I hope that was helpful, and I hope to see you on the next episode of Building Australia. Thank you.